Kyle Larson exposed after NASCAR's shocking inspection penalty. Picture this. It's a Sunday morning at one of the most punishing racetracks in America. Before you have turned a single competitive lap, your team has already been stripped of something it earned. A key man, someone who holds your entire race day operation together, has been escorted out of the garage. And the people who handed down that punishment, they are watching. Every single move, every adjustment, every decision your crew makes. Now at this, you are the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion. You are on a 39-race winless streak. A playoff cutoff is closing in, and the entire paddock is waiting to see if you crack. That man was Kyle Larson. And what unfolded at Pocono Raceway during the weekend of the 16th points-paying event of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season has the entire NASCAR world split right down the middle. Before we go any further, if you are serious about NASCAR and want content that actually breaks down what is happening inside the garage, not just the race results, we are almost at 2,500 subscribers here on NASCAR Racing Nation. We are almost there, and your support is what makes this level of coverage possible. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with someone who follows the sport. Every single action you take helps us bring better content, more frequently. Now, back to Pocono. Saturday at Pocono Raceway. The Tricky Triangle. A circuit with 3 completely different corners, each one demanding its own setup philosophy, making the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet of Kyle Larson one of the hardest cars to dial in at this track under perfect conditions. Saturday was not perfect conditions. The number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet of Kyle Larson and the number 78 Live Fast Motorsports Chevrolet of Daniel Dye both failed NASCAR pre-race inspection, not once, but twice, before eventually clearing on the third attempt. Kelly Crandall of Racer was first to break the story, reporting, "The cars of Kyle Larson and Daniel Dye both failed inspection twice at Pocono. They passed on the third time. Loss of pit stall selection for both teams. Larson loses car chief Jesse Saunders. Dye loses engineer Chris Stanley. Let that settle for a moment. 2 failed inspections. That is not a paperwork issue. That is not an administrative error. When a car fails NASCAR inspection twice, something about that machine was outside the boundaries of the rulebook. And NASCAR noticed. Twice. Before a single green flag lap had been run, Hendrick Motorsports had already been forced to make a change that no championship-level team wants to make on a race weekend. Jesse Saunders is not just a title on a credential. A car chief is the operational backbone of a NASCAR race team on race day, coordinating setup, managing the car's condition between stages, and maintaining the communication pipeline between the driver and the engineers. His ejection meant Hendrick Motorsports would be running Sunday's race with an adjusted chain of command, at a track where the setup is already a calculated compromise between 3 completely different types of corners. Pocono's layout means your car can never be perfect in every section. It is always a trade-off. The car chief manages that trade-off in real time. Take him away, mid-weekend, and you are asking the remaining crew to absorb that gap without missing a beat. The question that nobody in the paddock wanted to answer out loud was a simple one: did NASCAR just hand someone else a championship opportunity? What makes this situation harder to dismiss is that it does not exist in isolation. Inspection penalties have become a recurring feature of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. The week before Pocono, Michigan produced its own penalty situations. Earlier, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in March, 4 separate car chiefs were ejected for inspection violations across different teams on the same weekend. This is not a one-off. And then there is the detail that no one in the sport can fully ignore. Kyle Larson himself, appearing on NBC Sports Splash Go, made a comment about Hendrick Motorsports that landed differently than he may have intended. He said, jokingly, that the organization starts cheating and finding some speed a couple of months into the season. He laughed. The clip circulated. Whether it was a joke or not, those words exist in the same sentence as 2 failed pre-race inspections at Pocono. Kevin Harvick has also raised the patent publicly, warning that Hendrick tends to lose its edge as the season progresses. The team comes out fast in the early rounds, but as summer arrives and rival programs find small setup gains week by week, HMS begins to look less dominant. So the question underneath all of this, the one this script is not going to answer for you, is straightforward. If Hendrick Motorsports is under pressure, carrying a year-long winless drought, and desperate for speed, what exactly was NASCAR finding in that car on Saturday morning? Here is the number that puts everything in context. Kyle Larson entered the Pocono weekend on a 39-race winless streak, the longest drought of his career since joining Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. For the defending Cup Series champion, that is not a statistic anyone inside that team wants to carry. Larson addressed the streak directly, saying, "I think you guys pay attention to it way more than I pay attention to it," then added, "Obviously, I would have loved to have won to this point, but we just haven't been good enough." Sports on Prime posted a clip of Larson reacting to his own standings position, saying that's a crazy stat, in response to the fact that he sat 6th in the Cup Series points standings despite 0 wins on the season. That clip spread quickly across NASCAR's social media. The contrast inside Hendrick Motorsports itself is difficult to overlook. Teammate Chase Elliott had already recorded multiple wins in 2026, at the same organization, in the same class of equipment. When a team that has produced 0 wins for its headlining driver shows up to a race weekend with a car that fails inspection twice during a high-pressure phase of the season, the benefit of the doubt disappears fast. And for a large segment of the NASCAR fanbase, it had already disappeared before the first penalty was announced. Kyle Larson was not the only driver affected by Saturday's penalty wave. Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, and Ryan Preece all dropped to the rear of the starting field for unapproved adjustments. The Pocono garage was a pressure chamber before a competitive lap had been completed. Then NASCAR moved the race start time, shifting the green flag from 3 p.m. to 1 p.m. due to concerns about rain moving into the Pocono Mountains region later in the afternoon. 2 hours stripped from a team's pre-race preparation window. 2 hours taken away from a crew that was already operating without its car chief and had been assigned the worst pit road stalls on the track as a direct consequence of the inspection penalties. Fan reaction on social media reflected the divide in the broader NASCAR community. One account wrote, "Hendrick fails inspection twice and gets to keep their front row spot. Other teams would have been parked. There are 2 sets of rules in this sport." Another replied, "Or maybe they're just desperate and got caught pushing too far. 39 races without a win will make you do wild things." Both of those viewpoints exist simultaneously, and neither one is going away. Sunday's race at Pocono marked the 16th points-paying event of the 2026 Cup Series season, with only 10 races remaining before the playoff field locked in. Larson sat 6th in the standings. Every position, every stage point, every finish from this point forward carries direct playoff implications. Here is where the story takes a turn that nobody on either side of this argument was fully prepared for. Kyle Larson, after losing his car chief, after having pit stall selection stripped from his team, after the entire garage knew exactly what had happened to number 5, walked into Saturday's practice session and topped the speed charts at 170.707 miles per hour. Not a single fast lap on a clean piece of track. He led the field in 10-lap average speed, which is the number that separates a fast qualifying run from genuine race pace. Then came qualifying. Second fastest on the entire grid. Front row. Starting alongside Denny Hamlin. Now sit with that for a moment. A car that failed NASCAR inspection twice on Saturday morning was, by Saturday afternoon, the second fastest machine at Pocono Raceway. If the car was carrying something illegal, and the penalty removed it, how was it still that fast after being cleared? That is the question half the garage asked quietly, and the other half posted openly on social media. Nobody has a clean answer. The penalty debate in the NASCAR community has not produced a consensus, and it will not anytime soon. One side of the argument holds that the system worked exactly as designed. NASCAR found a violation, issued the penalties, loss of pit stall selection, ejection of the car chief, and the team faced real consequences that affected their race weekend. The other side holds that 2 failed inspections should result in a move to the rear of the starting grid, period. Not a pit stall penalty. Not a personnel ejection. The back of the field. The former Cup Series champion secured a front-row starting spot and remained one of the pre-race favorites despite both penalties. That single sentence is the controversy in its most concentrated form. There is also a data point from Larson's 2026 season that makes the broader picture harder to read. Entering Pocono, Larson had led 573 laps on the year, nearly 180 more than Tyler Reddick, who ranked second in that category. Only Denny Hamlin had led more laps during the 2026 Cup Series season than Kyle Larson. A driver leading that many laps and sitting in the top 6 of the standings without a single win is a statistical anomaly. The question of what that means, about the car, about execution, about pit strategy, about the investigation at Pocono, does not have a single clean explanation. Sunday. The green flag dropped. And Kyle Larson, the penalized man, the driver whose team had been publicly called out, stripped of resources, and handed the worst pit road real estate on the track, passed Denny Hamlin on the opening lap and moved to the front of the field. The defending champion, carrying a 39-race winless streak, without his car chief, from compromised pit stalls, led the race. What that means about what was happening inside the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet on Saturday morning, that is not a question NASCAR's penalty structure answered on Sunday. Whether the punishment fit what was found. Whether the rules protect all competitors equally or protect the biggest programs differently. Whether a front row start and race leadership after 2 failed inspections tells you something about enforcement, or something about Kyle Larson. Those questions do not have clean answers. And that is exactly why this argument is not finished. Drop your take in the comments right now. Was the penalty enough, or did NASCAR go easy on Hendrick Motorsports? If a mid-table team had failed inspection twice at Pocono, would they have started from the front row? Would they have kept racing at all? That is the conversation this sport needs to be having right now, and the comments section is where it belongs. Share this video with anyone in your circle who follows NASCAR, because this is a story that deserves more eyes on it than it is getting. And if you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.